Hello, today you will hear a story with an interesting plot. Classes at the local school have long since ended. Workers and school children went home. It was very quiet in the room, only muffled sounds could be heard from the director's office. There were two people there, the director himself and a chemistry teacher. They made love right on the desk. No one knew that this couple had been secretly dating for a year. They hid their dates very carefully. This is understandable, as they both had families. The director of the school, Anton, had held this position for almost 10 years. He had a wife and two children who were students at this school. They were an ordinary family by the standards of their small village. Anton was highly respected by his colleagues, parents of students, and the children themselves. He was a pleasant man of 45 years old, of average height and with a fit figure. Olga, the chemistry teacher, had moved with her family a little over a year ago. She was a 30-year-old woman with a good figure. After getting to know her colleagues, she started her work. She quickly gained the reputation of a qualified teacher and the respect of the people in the village. This was not surprising, as she was always smiling, polite, pleasant to talk to, and a faithful wife and a good hostess. Olga's father-in-law, who had worked as a janitor at this school his entire life, and was now retired, had recommended her for this position. A month later, it was Women's Day. In the morning, a concert was planned for students to celebrate their mothers and grandmothers, which was organized by Olga. The children sang, danced, and greeted their relatives with great enthusiasm. In the evening, the entire teaching team gathered at a local cafe. The men greeted their female colleagues, danced, joked, and of course, had some drinks. When the next slow dance was announced, Anton approached Olga and invited her to dance. She happily agreed, and they talked. The conversation was easy and relaxed, as they discovered they had many common interests and views on life. After a couple of hours, Anton and Olga were already talking like old friends. They were drawn to each other like a magnet, and wanted to spend even more time talking. As their little banquet was coming to an end, Anton offered to drive Olga home. She gladly accepted, and they drove through the dark streets, still unable to stop talking. When they arrived, Anton put his hand on Olga's leg and she felt a rush of heat from his touch. Warmth spread through her body and a sweet tickle in her stomach. The man stopped the car and leaned in for a kiss. Anton expressed that he had never met such an interesting and attractive woman, and that he would like to be alone with her. Olga reciprocated his feelings. It remains to be seen what will happen next. It was necessary to find a quiet location because they were in the middle of the road, as if in the palm of their hand. The entire village knew about their car, and anyone could see what they were doing there because the windows were not tinted. Anton had the keys to the school and suggested going there. It was a good idea, but Olga was frightened and asked about the watchman. The man replied that the worker was in the nearby firebox and slept almost all night. With their headlights on, they drove up to the park near the school, and holding hands like school children, quietly walked around the premises and entered through the emergency exit. This sense of mystery heightened the excitement for both of them. Olga turned to Anton in a hurry. He felt the woman's hot hand dive under his t-shirt, her firm fingers tickling across his chest. Her hand slid lower, with some effort breaking through the belt. The man couldn't wait any longer, and put it on the table in the lobby. Several weeks passed, and no one noticed that the principal and the teacher had a special relationship. They continued to enjoy each other's company in secret. These meetings were a refreshing escape from their normal lives. A few times a year, they would attend advanced training courses together. Olga was not surprised to see that Anton would go with her on the same day. They would spend 2 days together, talking and making love. After returning from the courses, Olga was very gentle and friendly with her husband. She would cook him delicious new dishes and listen attentively to his stories about work. She was glad that everything was going well in her life. Olga's husband, Mikhail, was very intelligent, calm, and polite. She was lucky to have met him and have a reliable and faithful partner at home. He was a programmer who worked from home and earned a good income. Life with him was peaceful and without any drama. Mikhail believed that every situation could be resolved through calm discussion. After meeting Anton, Olga realized that her life with her husband was dull and monotonous. She now felt like a real woman, sexy and desirable. She wanted to convince Mikhail to make love during the day, even if it was just near an open window where anyone could see. But Mikhail believed that sex was a very intimate act and should only be done at night with the head covered by a blanket. One day, after staying late at the school, the lovers didn't notice the male silhouette behind the curtains of the office. It was Mikhail's father who had access to the school because he worked there. Recently, he had doubts about his daughter-in-law. He began to notice that she often stayed at school alone with the principal, even after the working day had ended. One day, he asked Olga why she didn't go home right away, but stayed with the director. Olga replied that they were working on an important project together, which would bring success to their institution. The old man almost believed her until he couldn't sleep at work one night. Despite the peaceful and calm village, he decided to take a walk around the school and admire the bright moon. Suddenly, he heard some rustling and hid behind a tree. He saw two people coming out of the emergency exit door, hugging and walking around the school. The watchman wanted to shout and scare them, thinking they were thieves. But something familiar about them stopped him. He overheard their conversation and realized it was his daughter-in-law and the director, whom he had always respected as a professional and family man. He returned to his post after half an hour, unable to sleep due to what he had seen. He was now sure that Olga was not working on any important project, but was betraying his son. He decided to tell his wife in the morning, who was a wise woman and could help him figure out what to do. Together, they decided to tell their son about everything and let him decide how to proceed. Mikhailo, who was always busy with work, was surprised by his father's early visit and noticed that he looked puzzled. After a few minutes, he understood why. However, he couldn't believe it because Olga had always been a loving and supportive wife. But as he thought about it, he remembered how often she had been late at work lately and how she would sometimes seem distant during their conversations. When his father suggested that Olga might be cheating on him, Mikhailo defended her, saying that he must have mistaken her for someone else. He also insisted on seeing evidence before making any decisions that could affect their family. His father started to doubt himself, wondering if he had really seen Olga with the director, or if he had mistaken someone else for her. But the very next day, when he entered the school premises, the principal was holding his son's wife by the buttocks in the corridor on the first floor. They looked tenderly at each other, not noticing the witness of this situation. The watchman heard how they agreed to meet in the biology room in an hour when the cleaners would go home. The man quickly called his son and ordered him to come to school right now. He also asked him to bring the director's wife here. Let him tell her that her husband has prepared a surprise for her. Mikhailo was surprised at such a request from his father, but he listened to him and believed him since childhood. It seems that something very serious has happened. If they have to come, the director's wife gladly agreed to go with Mikhailo to school. She rarely received any unexpected gifts from her husband, so now she was curious about what her lover had prepared for her. So he did not forget about their wedding anniversary. Mikhaila's father was waiting for them near the park. He said that if they did not want to spoil the performance, they should follow him very quietly into one of the rooms. All three of them were finally in place. There were a lot of cabinets for various accessories in the biology room, and just now the watchman chose one of them as a hiding place. He said that this was necessary for one action, and they would find out when exactly they needed to leave. Until then, they should sit very quietly. And then he went somewhere. After a short period of time, Mikhailo and the director's wife heard that someone entered the office. At first, they heard whispers and rustling, and after a couple of minutes, they heard sounds that were clear to all adults. The people in the closet could not even move from shame for overhearing such a thing. When Mikhailo looked through the window, he saw on the floor the red dress that Olga wore this morning. Here he understood everything. He saw the hand of the director's wife, Nadia, reach out to open the closet door, but Mikhailo stopped her and pulled out his phone. He had a great idea on how to punish these two. After getting dressed, The lovers carefully left the school premises. Olga, on the first floor, happened to be in the way of her father-in-law. She greeted him, and the watchman was surprised by something. When she came home, Michaela was not there. Instead, he texted her that he would be waiting for her at a local movie theater. Anton received the same message from his wife. Apparently, people were shown movies in the cinema once every 3 months. Although everyone had a TV and internet at home, the hall was always completely filled, because it was an opportunity to communicate, see each other, and hear some news. Tonight was no exception. Olga, dressed in an evening dress, entered the room. Michaela met her, greeted her, and led her to her seat in the first row. She laughed and said she was expecting a place for kisses, the last ones. But the man frowned. For some reason, Anne frowned. Anton and Nina were already sitting next to them. The lights were turned off and a movie about love started. Whispers were heard from everywhere. Locals were quietly discussing some of their problems. But suddenly they started showing a very intimate scene. It's good that there were no children in the cinema. The whispers gradually died down, and all the attention of the residents was fixed on the screen. Someone in the hall suddenly shouted that it was our director with Olga. The hall suddenly became noisy. Turn on the lights. Anton and Olga sat with red faces. They did not know what to do. It was a shame forever. Then Nina also grabbed Olga's hair, and a fight began. The hall happily contemplated this performance. People laughed, commented, and older people were indignant. To escape from here, Anton and Olga had to make their way through the corridor of shame, where everyone shouted something in their faces. They decided to run away from this village together, because they will not be allowed to live peacefully here. When everyone left, Elena, a former classmate, approached Mikhailo. She's been working here for a long time. She has been in love with a man since school. He thanked her for her help and finally noticed how pretty she was. Mikhailo invited the woman on a date tomorrow, as a lawyer was waiting for him and Nina to help get a divorce faster. Elena immediately agreed. She did not expect that she would be able to be with the love of her life. Dear listeners, please like and subscribe to our channel. It stimulates me to release new videos for you.